All right, my friends, if you remember, last time we're learning in this speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991. Excuse me. And the emphasis here is this world, why God gave the Torah in the desert, why he gave it in the world. That's first of all, but if he's going to give the Torah in the world, so give the Torah is a very amazing thing. It should have been given, and the Torah should have been given in a very honorable, high, holy place. It was given in a desert, which is a dead place. A dead place. There's no, there's a few scorpions over there, snakes, whatever it is. But except for that, people don't live there. And not only that, it's an ownerless place. Anything that's lost in the desert is lost. That's it. It's ownerless. So why? So the Rebbe says, the reason is very simple. God gave the Torah in the physical world in order to refine and make holy the physical world. And even more, to show that the physical world, this physical world, is foremost in God's mind. It's not just an additional thing that he did. He was, whatever God does his spiritual things. And, once in a while he just coughed or something, and this world all of a sudden, came to be. So God said, okay, whatever it is, let's go. Let's, how do you say, let's run with it. Run with it. He says, hey, there's people over here. Let's give them a couple commandments. And said, right. And the angel said, wait, this is pretty enjoyable. We're sort of bored up here saying holy, holy all the time. Let's look at these people, what they do. Hey, wow, look at this guy. Look at what he's doing. He's putting in a test. He's in a test. Is he going to pass this? Is he going to steal the money or not? And just they're sitting up there and they're watching, eating spiritual popcorn or whatever it is, and watching and seeing what we do. And once in a while, God helps us. And says that is the wrong picture. The fact of the matter is this world is tremendously important to God. This world is in the essence of God's being, if you want to call it. The essence of God. This world is made and is being made every instant with intention from the essence of God. Me and you and everyone, and the animals and the plants and everything is being made according to this amazing, deep plan and purpose. And God has a tremendous interest and pleasure from this world, which is not the case. All the upper world's going to heaven and stuff like that. That's just like a pit stop or something like that, or a temporary delay. But this world, this physical world, here God gets pleasure. Here there'll be the raising of the dead. Here's the holy temple. Here's Moshiach. This physical world, that's the stress. Who would dream a thing like that? This world is terrible. This world is awful. This world is full of all sorts of temptations and frustrations, and things and disappointments and emptiness, terrible, terrible emptiness. The emptiness of this world is just incomprehensible. And it brings to such depression and such the meaninglessness of the world and cruelty and people getting addicted and stuff like that. It's because things are just so empty, the world. And there's all these songs written about it, people long for all sorts of stupid things just to fill this emptiness. The emptiness. So the world is terrible. Says the Rebbe, yes, the world is terrible without its true purpose being revealed. Without the true purpose being revealed. Without the true purpose being revealed, the world is awful. No normal human being would want to be in this world. And it says the soul doesn't want to come into the world. Against your will, you're born. But the fact is that this physical world, if we do what we're supposed to, and if we follow God's creations against all odds, against all nature, then we don't just defy nature or go to heaven. We transform nature and reveal that this world is infinitely higher and holier and happier than heaven, the highest levels of heaven could possibly be. And that's why God gave the Torah in the desert, because the Torah, the main function of the Torah is to transform the desert of this world. So that's what it says, that the 10 commandments are put into the 10 utterances that God created the world with. And inside of these 10 commandments are the one commandment of Anochi, I am God. And also inside of these 10 utterances that God created the world with, it says God could have created the world with one utterance. In other words, the godliness which is in the Torah, the godliness which is in the world, in every detail of the world. That's where we got up to last time. One moment. Where did we get up to exactly last time? Okay, one second. You know what? I'll make a small delay here. Pause recording. So the Rebbe said that if we look at the Midrash, we see the world was created with 10 utterances, but God could have created with one utterance. That's in Pirkei Avot. God could have created it with one utterance. What is this one utterance? The godliness that's in the world. But that stresses the importance of the world, that God did not make it with one utterance as godliness, but he made it with 10 utterances to stress the greatness of the world, the importance of the world. God did not just, and then the world was created. He made it in 10 utterances. Let there be light, let there be a firmament, right? Let there be separate the land from the from the waters, let there be plants, let there be animals, let there be all. God created all these things with 10 utterances show how important the world is. The same thing with the 10 commandments that we're supposed to use in order to purify the world. They really are rolled up into one commandment. It says, Achaz, Achaz dibarta, one here says, Achaz dibar Elohim, one thing you spoke, God, and Shnayim dibar shamati, that in one word, all the 10 commandments are like one word. And that stresses the greatness of God. So we have the 10 commandments stressing the greatness of God, and the 10 utterances stressing the greatness of the world. And both of them, each one has something that the other one doesn't have. Milas is Galus to Esrman Moros, the whole greatness of God's creating the world with 10 utterances. Shemit Labshim be'inyan olam, they're in the world. In a way that everything is divided, everything is separate, everything is important and unique. Mitzad mazagom v'tchunasam, that everything has a different constitution and a different composition. Everything in the world. According to what I learned, I don't know if this is still relevant anymore, but there was this the way of the atoms. There was Niels Bohr's picture of the atom, that there's nucleus and the what is it, and the electrons and the protons. Electrons are spinning around over there around the protons. Whether that's still practical or not, I mean, something in there is practical, but every atom, it takes a different place or whatever than every other atom does. So everything is different, if for no other reason, just in the place that it's there. And I'm not sure, I mean, I'll just say I'm sure, but that if it was really checked into the atoms or the quarks or whatever they are, they would discover that each one is unique in some way from each other one. Oh, but the Gilui, the revelation, is only that's the godliness in the world, but the revelation is in how it is in every single detail of the world. So every detail of the world is different, but there's godliness, that's this one utterance that God could have created the world with. This is the godliness which is relative to each detail of the world. You know, but the whole highness of this one utterance that God could have created the world with, which that's above any details of the world. This reveals the level of godliness which is above the world, but it does not come into the world. Because it's not recognized the importance of the different creations because of their constitution, etc. This is because this aspect of God, again, God created the world with 10 utterances. He could have created it with one utterance. The 10 utterances, that stresses the importance of the world. The one utterance also stresses the importance of the world, but how the fact that God is creating it, and He's creating it from nothing. So the world is a big miracle. It's being created by nothing. Everything you see in front of you is a big miracle. It's being created by God from nothing. So the 10 utterances that the world is created with, that stresses the difference and the distinction between each thing in the world compared to every other thing. That's just the world part of the world. And the one utterance that God could have created the world with, that's hinting at the godliness which is in the world, which essentially makes the world into nothing. That the whole world is just this big miracle created from nothing. The shlemos and mitis, but truly what are you supposed to do is have them both together. Shagam dargas elokus, that also the level of godliness in the world, which is above the world, that's what we said, one utterance, should be drawn into and revealed into the details of the world. In other words, we should work in the world, be part of the world, have a family, have money in the bank account, have a job, every detail of the world. You have a car, you have a house, but you should feel that everything that you do is a miracle and that you are partners with God in this big miracle. By means of this will fulfill the intention of the Creator's creation, that God wants that He should have a dwelling place in this physical world. Dira, this is a dwelling place that in is revealed the essence of God. So, I mean, how are we going to reveal the essence of God in the world? So the answer to this is we can't. We can't reveal the essence of God in the world. That's ridiculous. The world is nothing to God. How can we influence God? We can't reveal God in the world, but God can. And God says that if we do what He wants in the way that He wants, with the proper idea that He wants, then this world is God's world, it's not our world. Then this reveals, God will do His part and He'll reveal His essence in the world. That's called a blessing. Not just the level of godliness which is in the world. One second, somebody's thing is on. Oh, I'm going to have to mute someone. Nothing personal. There we go. Not just the aspect of God which is in the world or comparable to the world, namely, how do you say that the world is being enlivened, that the world is an amazing miracle. Elagam dargas alakus, but also the level of godliness which is above the world will be revealed in the world. Remember, we learned the previous Pella. We said this thing about Aleph is Pella putting the. We'll feel that everything in the world, every detail of the world is revealing the essence, Achdus Peshuta, the oneness of God, making a dwelling place for God in this world. Like it was in the Holy Temple. People would go to the Holy Temple 3 times a year, and they would be happy. The essence of God will be drawn down and permeate the lowest levels of the world. All this multitude of the world, which seems to scream out, there is no God. I mean, what are you talking about? The God, really, you really want me to believe? You know how many cells there are in a leaf of a plant, right? I don't know, thousands, millions. You know how many plants there are? Now, thousands and millions, billions, trillions. You want to tell me that God personally creates every cell in every plant all the time? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Why would He do a thing like that? Why do we even ask why we have to do that? Because we think, we demand an answer. You have to understand it. To realize that God is creating it, it's something that's above understanding. It's a happy thing. Look how good God is. He's creating all these plants. All you plant lovers, you should love plants. You should certainly love God who's creating the plants. And not only is He creating the plants, He's creating every single cell, every single, whatever it's called, xylems and phloems or something, in every single plant there is in the world, right? So this is pretty good. That's pretty all right. You know, if you should not step on the grass, for sure you shouldn't step on the creator of the grass. So when we realize that's 2 aspects of godliness in the world. Number one, that God is creating the world, very nice. And the second one is feeling the miracle of it. The miracle. And eventually, what is it to feel the miracle of all of the details that there are in the world? That's tremendously inspiring. This whole idea, and the Torah brings us into the world by means of the one utterance and the 10 utterances that God created the world with, that says in the Torah. How do we know these things about the utterances? This is stressed that the preparation of giving the Torah by means of Sfirat the Omer, counting the Omer, and from Passover till Atzeret. That's the whole idea of counting the Omer. Well, how does counting the Omer prepare us for feeling godliness in the world? Well, when God gave the Torah, this came after Hakdama. There had to be a preparation. God just didn't give the Torah to the Jews, gathered them all together in this big place and gave them the Torah. They had to suffer in Egypt for 210 years. And then God took them out with miracles. And then they counted the Omer, 49 days. And then Nigla Lamb, that was revealed to them, the King of Kings, God in his glory and himself. And he redeemed them. Kedei, in order that when, why did God take the Jews out of Egypt? In order that they would serve me, Tabdun, at Elokim Allah Harazeh. That's what God said to Moses on the burning bush. The burning bush was on Mount Sinai. Cave and Sinshakov of the Mount Torah, since the whole intention, why God gave the Torah, why God did this whole business of putting the Jews into Egypt, and big miracles, and taking them out, and counting the Omer, and then taking them to Mount Sinai, and then revealing himself, godliness, and then giving them the Torah. The reason God did all this is just to join together Elyonim, the upper worlds, in other words, the creator, and even above this aspect of God being a creator, but let's the creator with the creation. Elyonim betachtonim, the Elyonim, that the upper worlds came down into below, and the below lower worlds they went up. This is a true joining, not in a way just that the upper worlds came down, God came down into the world, and they stopped being so godly. Then it's not really the true upper worlds, and the lower worlds is not really lower world. Maybe you can say, listen, now come on, we already had godliness in the world. There was the holy temple, and there was the Holy of Holies, and it says the people went there and they felt God and they saw God. That's good enough. Says the Rebbe, no, it's not good enough. God doesn't want just everybody to be outside of the holy temple and to know, that God exists because they were in the holy temple. They went there and they felt, listen, I'm being created. I know it. Right now, you're not in the holy temple. Do you feel it? No, but I was there. And when I was there, I felt that the world is good. God is creating us, right? And the Torah is infinitely good. And I said, but do you feel it now? No, I remember it. This says the Rebbe, well, the purpose is the reason that the Holy Temple was here, so that people should realize that there's God. And God wants to be revealed everywhere. He wants the whole world to have this feeling of the Holy Temple. And not just when we're doing holy things, like bringing the sacrifices and doing all these, everything in the world can be holy if you do it the way that God wants. If you have an honest business, and if you really are helpful, and if you're truthful, and if you care about others, you give charity, you learn Torah wherever you can, whenever you can, and wherever you can. She says, as then, Eino Tachton, then the world is not so low anymore. But the upper worlds, as they are in the upper worlds, like with the angels and even above, it joins with the physical world as it is here. This makes this is made by means of the preparation of counting the Omer. Right? Other religions, I don't know, the ideas, they say, listen, this world is a big preparation for going to heaven. You do good in this world, then you get a big revelation in heaven. What about revealing God in this world? No, you didn't listen to what I was saying. This world is a terrible place. It's a testing place. You go through the tests, then you go to heaven, and you get a big revelation. Okay? Says, well, what about revealing God in this physical world? So you just don't understand what I'm saying. This world is only a testing place. It's not, but Judaism says, no, it's not so. It's not so. Heaven is a resting place. You go, like I said, it's a pit stop, but the main purpose is to be in this physical world and to reveal godliness in this physical world. And not just like an automobile race, that the world is just a means to get this big prize or something like that in this world. It's not. The world itself is the prize. The world itself is godliness. We can't understand this, but that's what the Rebbe is telling us. If people could be happy 3 times a year going to the Holy Temple, we can be happy all year. The whole world will be like a Holy Temple. How do we get to this level? By the Torah. How do we get the Torah? By counting the Omer. Counting the Omer every day. The whole content of this commandment of counting from the day after Passover, 7 Shabbat, it says the day after Shabbat, but it really means Passover. to count 7 weeks, that you should count 50 days. What does that mean to me and to you? 1 minute, what happened? What did I do? 50 days? Yeah. In the service of man, this goes until you have to go from the day after Shabbat, and this is after the first day of Passover, after the first day of Passover. I mean, Shabbat, we said, is a revelation of God in the world. And after Shabbat, that's above Shabbat, that's drawing something higher than godliness that's already in the world, to draw that aspect of godliness into the world. How do you do that? How do you draw down the essence of God in his essence, which is above the entire world, that he should ya'ir, he should shine up, God should shine up every detail in the world, Lashon sapir or begiloi. Skip. So it's above this, right? They should shine. Oh, here we go. And all of the details of all of our emotions, like it says, 7 weeks, 7 times 7, all the 49 facets of our personality in the world and man and in the world, until it's revealed. Tispuru, you should count 50. The word tispur means also sapir, to shine, and it should permeate the 50th day. That's what's called the 50th gate of understanding. Above all the 49 gates of understanding, godliness, this 50th gate of understanding, that's what was revealed on the 50th day after leaving Egypt, when we got the Torah. But this should not be just revealed on Mount Sinai, and not just a level of godliness which is relevant to the 49 days, let's say to reveal the Torah in Jerusalem or somewhere, but that the highest of levels of godliness should be drawn down higher even than the 49 gates of understanding, should be drawn down, nimshachat should be drawn down and revealed into the 50th day. What does that mean? That this highest level of godliness should be revealed in the lowest place, and that's why it was given in the desert. And we can add on that this year, that the beginning of counting the Omer was the day after Shabbat. That didn't work. That was not the way it was this year, and it ends up on Shabbat. So this comes out to be really 7 complete weeks. This is not relevant to this year. This was relevant to 1991. So in any case, it will be complete. The whole idea of counting the Omer then is a preparation for the giving of the Torah, and the Torah is the ability of man to reveal the essence of God in every detail of the world. Therefore, God gave the Torah in the desert, so that even the desert should become alive and fruitful. Every detail of the world should suddenly become meaningful. No one will ever use another person again for their own pleasures or their own purposes or their own whatever means to an end. Every person is an end in himself. Every moment, every second is an end in itself. And of course, the grand end is to reveal more and more godliness into the world, to reveal the real, I say, life and importance and vitality in every single instant, in every single place, in every single thing. And that's done by going out of Egypt, counting the Omer, purifying our personal selves, and then by means of that, receiving the Torah. So here we see there's a big stress on ourselves. I mean, there's a big, in the world, there are all of these philosophies and ideas. You got to fix up the other guy. You have to fix up the other person. Right? Like I said, now that these people, they have these, these ideas, you have to make a sex change. And so the person gets the idea, I should be a girl. So instead of the person changing his mind, so he blames it on his body, right? Instead of people working on themselves to fix themselves up, so they say this guy is the problem, right? Communism is the problem. Capitalism is the problem. And it could be that those things really are the problem. It could be that they really are bad. But the reason that they're bad is because we're not doing anything to fix it up. How do you fix it up? War, revolution. Okay, once in a while, that's necessary. We have the story of Hanukkah and this. But nowadays, not, says the Rebbe, that's not called for. Now what's called for is if we fix up ourselves, then we become a good example, and then God does the rest. That's the point. We don't have to do the whole thing ourselves. That's how we got into this quagmire. Everybody thought we've got to do the whole thing ourselves. America was the first place. The Rebbe talked about this a lot. That they write on the dollar, "In God we trust." It used to be in the schools. They used to make. I remember when I was in school. There's one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. We said God. God was a good thing. Right, God. The more people think about God, the Rebbe wanted to institute in all of the schools in America, he wanted to have a moment of prayer in the morning. Everybody could pray to whoever they want to. And then there was opposition. So the Rebbe said, okay, make it a moment of silence. And then finally got to the point where every state can determine if there should be a moment of silence in the morning. Right? Think about whatever you want to. Moment of silence. But at least people will take a little time to remove themselves to the world and to fix up themselves. That's the point. To fix up yourself, not to blame the other person. What did this thing of blame? As soon as Adam ate from the tree, he started blame. Blame came into the world, right? God said, what did you do? Why did you put on these coverings? It says they put over fig leaves. So, well, it's the lady that you gave me. She did. So God went to the Chava. Why did you do it? She said, the snake that you, right? And the snake didn't make up any excuses. The snake didn't make any excuses. The man and his wife, God said to them basically, listen, if you just would have been honest and just come out with it, and so okay, I could have fixed it up, but I see you're going to make mistakes, that you're going to make excuses, and that you're going to carry these excuses, the ability to make excuses. This is part of your first aid kit or whatever you got. So the excuses are going to go with you everywhere. So don't make excuses in heaven. Heaven's not the place for excuses. Gan Eden, it was heaven on earth. Heaven on earth is not the place for excuses and blaming other people. Work on yourself. And that's this whole thing of counting the Omer, is to work on yourself, work on your love, work on your who you get. What do you say? Where you are assertive. Are you doing it the right way? Are you doing it in a nice way? Are you doing it in a beautiful way? Are you doing it in a loving way? Work on your mercy, what you have mercy on, your balance, etc. Like I said, there's a good book by Rabbi Simon Jacobson, and he gives his whole take on it, which is very, very practical, on counting the Omer, what you're supposed to do with yourself. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Have a good day with Moshiach now. Oh, no, I have to do the Yom Yom. I have to do the Yom Yom. 1 minute.
Yeah.
There we go. Here we go. Oh, no, we got it. We got to stop this. Share. What's it? So maddening. 1 minute. 1 minute. Why is it doing this to me?